Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Warner, and I'm president of the Culinary Historians of Chicago. And tonight we go down way south for a wonderful speaker. I'm going to do something different. I'm sorry, I have to do something a little personal. I see my cousin from Los Angeles is tuned in, Marlon Polly. Sorry about that, but I never get a chance to see her. Hi, Marlon. Anyway, on that note, back to our program. Uh, our guest tonight is Angelina Froes. I said it right, Angelina, right?
Right on.
At least the American pronunciation.
Yeah.
And I will tell you a little bit about how I met Angelina. She's going to introduce herself because she's so dynamic. I thought I can't do her justice, and so she will introduce herself, tell about her background and what she's doing. And anyway, I live in a high rise on the north side in Chicago, and a big high rise, and we have a wonderful grocery store on our first floor. And I was in there shopping, and there's this person giving a demonstration of some kind of weird looking little puffs. And I went over and I thought, oh, well, I'll try it. And they were so delicious, these little cheese puffs, I guess. They're much more than that. And I kept on trying the different flavors. And there was Angelina explaining about it. And honestly, she was so dynamic. And I was talking to her while eating all the cheese puffs. And and I said, would you speak for the culinary store? And she seemed to know so much about Brazil and the cuisine and the history. And she said, yes. And here she is. And she has a very interesting day job. She's a typical food person in that her day job has nothing to do with food. It's like rocket science what she does. And she's going to explain about her background. I'm not going to introduce her. She's going to introduce herself and tell what her background is and how she got into this wonderful food business. And then she will give this amazing talk about Brazil. And Angelina, take it away.
I will. Thank you so much. You set a really high expectations for me, Scott. But thank you, everyone,
But
first and
you've
foremost.
already met those expectations because I've talked to you. So,
So yeah, no, thank you so much, Scott, for that really kind introduction. It was an absolute treat to meet you. You really made my day that day
oh,
at
and
Go
I
Grocery.
apologize for eating all your samples, but you kept on saying eat, eat, eat. But
Don't worry. That's one of my favorite things when I'm sampling. When I see people coming to try one and I can see that in their eyes that they want more. There's nothing that makes me happier than seeing people try my food, try my Brazilian cheese bread. So, and I always have a lot more samples tucked away. So don't worry about that.
and I
If you
did hide.
ever find me in a tasting or in a demo, you could
Yeah.
eat as many cheese breads as you like.
Well, I won't need to because I bought so many and I have them in my freezer and I use them as wanted. So anyway, take it away.
Of course, of course. Thank you, Scott. So, appreciate everyone making the time to talk about and to hear about Brazil, which is my favorite place in the world. So my name is Angelina Froes. Um, my background, so I'm originally from Rio, Brazil. I've been in the US now coming up 9 years, April 1st. I've lived all around the US, mostly cold areas, cold regions. I can't seem to escape the cold, but I lived in Boston, Minnesota, New Jersey, and then I've been in Chicago now for 3 years. So a little bit about my background. In the beginning of my career, I worked for different companies like Mondelez, Welch's, leading contract manufacturing. But currently, my day job, while Nina's Noms continues to grow, is I work for Bain. We are part of Bain. It's called Proxima and Bain. And what we do is procurement. So what we do for a lot of our clients is supporting them in how they buy. So procurement is purchasing, it's buying, right? So in a lot of situations, our clients are looking to improve their processes, the way that they purchase all things from like directs to indirects, right? Indirects like cleaning, janitorial, and then directs are either materials, raw materials. And in a lot of situations, we'll come in and understand what's wrong with their processes, with their purchasing, with their contracts. We do a lot of direct negotiation and really try to identify ways to improve their end-to-end efficiencies within their procurement structure. and as well as ways to identify cost savings and getting cost out. Everybody knows cost nowadays. But yeah, so I've been with Proxima now for years. But really my true love and passion and what drives me, and sometimes drives me crazy, is Nina's Noms. So I started Nina's Noms back in 2024. So it's been a little over a year and a half. And really what Nina's Noms is, my passion for Brazilian food, and bringing Brazil's delicious snacks to the US market and consumers. And currently now what Nina's Noms has, to what Scott was mentioning. So we have 5 different products, and they're Brazilian cheese bread. And we'll talk a little bit more about Brazilian cheese bread in depth, but it is a dreamy bread. So it's made with tapioca, cassava flour, and then cheese, olive oil, milk. We're also very passionate about wholesome, really good ingredients. It's a really clean label, really simple. And then we have a fun little twist with our different products, where there's a center fill. I know Scott really likes the guava one. Picture it's like a Danish, but a lot better. So really cheesy. And then you have a delicious fruity filling. We have a couple flavors with cream cheese and everything seasoning. So like picture a bagel bite, but better. And one of the upsides of Pão de Queijo, that's how it's called in Portuguese, is because it's made with cassava, tapioca flour, it's authentically and 100% gluten-free. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to be here. Putting together this presentation, when Scott asked me, it was really, really special, because living away from home, sometimes, the lines get blurred, and you're like, wait, I've been here for so long, but my heart is in Brazil. I'm from Brazil. So I was able to revive so many things, research so many things, and kind of rekindle my passion for what I'm doing with Nina's Noms, my passion for food. And obviously it made me miss Brazil a lot more, but it also made me really, really happy. So I really appreciate the invite, Scott. Is it okay if we jump right on in?
Yes, and I'm going to heat up a nam right now while we're talking.
We
No,
love
no,
it.
I'll wait till after.
You should try tasting and eating them during the presentation, and people will want it even more. Amazing. Okay, so let's jump right in. Okay, so Brazil, a culinary mosaic. So as I said, I've been here in the US for 9 years, but born and raised in Brazil. I born in Rio de Janeiro, which is in the southeast region of Brazil, more to in the little corner. It's very coastal, beautiful beaches. I think if you've heard of Brazil, you've heard of Rio, but I also spent many, many of my formative years in the northeast of Brazil, in the state of Bahia, and lived mostly in Salvador for many years during my formative years. Absolutely loved it there. If you have a chance to go, absolutely go. It's absolutely breathtaking. So I lived a little bit all over Brazil, and we'll talk about different foods, different flavors across the regions, but Brazil's giganormous. So I've obviously not experienced and tasted everything. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do the best that I can to give you guys a flavor of as much of Brazil as possible. And maybe your next trip will be planned down south to visit the best country ever.
A quick thing, Angelina, when I asked you what happened to your accent, I mean, but you have an explanation why you don't have any accent, even though you were born and raised in Brazil. Yeah, how did you come here accent free?
My lack of accent, I was talking to Kathy and to Scott yesterday. So my parents, when they were young teenagers during the hippie movement, they joined an American religious group slash cult that started here in the US in Huntington Beach in California, and then really spread globally. It in particular was really, really popular in Brazil. We had a lot of folks in Brazil, part of it, but because it was started in the US, based in the US, I lived with Americans growing up. All of our leadership was American, and in the home we spoke English and Portuguese side by side. So I speak 3 languages, English, Portuguese from Brazil. It's called Portuguese, not Brazilian. If you say that to Brazilians, they will be a little peeved off. So Portuguese, and then I also speak Spanish, which in some situations I could practice a lot more here in the US than Portuguese. But I try. I have a Brazilian friend in the office, and we chat away in Portuguese to make sure that it doesn't get rusty. Brazil, it is really a culinary mosaic. Brazil's huge, and it has some of the most diverse culinary traditions and mixes in the world, because it's really a lot of cultural exchange, transformation, different immigration, and the start of the country. So indigenous people, right? They established the foundation of food, native ingredients, their agricultural knowledge, and they really, from a cassava standpoint, which is the base of Pão de Queijo, and as you'll see, the base of a lot of the food we eat. The African community also brought a lot of our cooking techniques, a lot of the flavors, a lot of the spices, and actually started a lot of our most iconic dishes in Brazil, as well as the Portuguese colonists, dairy, livestock, baking traditions that kind of blended with the existing foodways. So, these influences created that foundation for Brazilian cuisines. I mean, it's really an absolute mix. If you could see here to the right, we have, sushi, and then we have Middle Eastern food and the beautiful, beautiful acarajé, which is this fritter right here, which is absolutely delicious. And it's really that melting pot, the melting flavors that makes Brazilian food so unique. And then another thing to call out is just the freshness of the ingredients, right? When I did move to the US many years ago, I was actually here visiting for only a week. My sister lived in San Francisco. And after a few days, I was like, I don't know what's going on with this food, but I miss the freshness. I miss the flavor. So it's a big mix, but it really has that, the food from the earth, right? We're a really warm tropical country. So, there's fresh produce all year round. And one interesting thing from Brazil, I mean, as I mentioned, the sushi. So Brazil has the largest Japanese population outside of Japan, with roughly 2 million people. I think in the US, the Japanese population is roughly 1.5 million, so more in Brazil. And we also have a huge Middle Eastern influence as well. Habib's, as you can see, it's a fast food chain, a Middle Eastern fast food chains with esfihas, kibbeh, and a bunch of other Middle Eastern inspired dishes. That is one of the largest Middle Eastern fast food chains in the world. I would enjoy a lot of snacks there. Sometimes after a night with some cocktails, we would drive on over, get some esfihas, and have a great time. And then the acarajé. So the acarajé is this fritter I was talking about. As I said, I lived in Salvador, in Bahia, for many years. And I ate that so many times. We ate copious amounts of acarajé growing up. And whenever I go visit, I don't even leave the airport, and I already have an acarajé in my hand, just stuffing it in my face, because it's absolutely delicious. And then we also absolutely love pizza in São Paulo, pizza in a lot of areas, like Saturday, Sunday, you must have pizza. We eat a lot of pizza in Brazil. So the US is the country that consumes the most pizza in the world. Then Brazil is second. Per capita, it's Norway, but from a volume perspective, it's the US, and then it is Brazil. Moving on. So geography, how geography shapes the plate. So from a geography standpoint, Brazil's the 5th largest country in the world. We are a very, very large country, 2,700 miles from north to south, east to west. As you can see, we're tall but wide as well. And we border 10 countries. So we're the largest country in South America from a land perspective, and as well from a population perspective. And we have some of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. We have the Amazon rainforest, a huge, huge, beautiful coastline, grasslands, and highlands as well. We are home to the Amazon River basin. I personally have not had the pleasure to go, but I have a lot of close friends that spent months or went and visited, and it's really a life-changing experience. It's so large. There's so much diversity. There's so many incredibly cool things to eat. If you have a chance, absolutely, because it is on my bucket list from home to go visit. And then our coastline is giganormous as well. And we have, of course, a really strong seafood tradition across a lot of our different regions and cities. So some of the ingredients and the food traditions. Oh, and just like a little call out for you guys to see how big Brazil is. This is Brazil against on top of the US. So Brazil is actually a little bit larger than the contiguous United States. So the 48 states, not including Alaska and Hawaii. But just for you to have an idea, sometimes you don't understand, but yeah, we're a very, very large country. And so a little bit about the ingredients. Obviously, we have fish from the Amazon, seafood from the coastline, cassava, fruits. One of the things that when anybody asks me what to do in Brazil, like what not to forget to do when going to Brazil, the first thing out of my mouth is juice. Don't forget to drink the juice. We have so many amazing we call them lanchonetes, like a luncheonette, like a snackinette, where it's just, if you'll go there, it's a wall of just fresh fruit that, they'll either squeeze, pop it in the blender with a little water, no sugar needed, and it's incredible. So if you do go to Brazil, don't forget to drink the juice. The fruits there are incredible. So a lot of fresh seafood, coconut milk. Of course, we have a huge coastal line, coconuts. Another thing for you not to forget to try when you go to Brazil is coconut milk straight from the coconut. This stuff in bottles and stuff, it has like, it's not even a competition against a fresh coconut. Then after you drink that delicious water, they'll cut it open and you can eat the meat right directly from it using a piece of the coconut as your spoon. So it's incredible. But so a lot of coconut milk, the West African ingredients like the dendê palm oil, azeite de dendê, which is this really fragrant, delicious oil, but it has a really vibrant red color, and it's used in a lot of dishes as well as for frying because it has a high heat tolerance. So that's a lot of the Northeast coast and the flavors. Our cattle industry is focused in the Midwest and some of the Amazon regions. And while the barbecue, our churrasco, originated in the South, in Rio Grande do Sul, a lot of our cattle is now in the Midwest. And then in the South, a lot of European agricultural traditions. The climate really helps, shaping breads, wine. There's a lot of dairy-rich cuisine in the South and the Southeast states. So we're not a single food tradition. It's a collection. It's a mix. It's a melting pot, really influenced by geography, agriculture, history. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go on a little tour of Brazil's flavors by different regions. So you can see here in Brazil, there are 26 states and one federational district, which is Brasília. Brasília is the capital of Brazil. I don't know if you guys can see this Distrito Federal, this little square here, but that is where our capital is. So 26 states plus the federal district in Brasília. But we are comprised of our five main regions, which is North, Norte, Northeast, Nordeste, Southeast, Sudeste, Sul, and Centro-Oeste, South, and then the Midwest or Center-West. And then, of course, each one of these regions, have different influences that really shaped Brazil from the north to the south, right? We touched a little bit on the different influences from Indigenous to the African folks to Portuguese, and then other influences that just keep on changing our incredible culinary. So in Portuguese, as I said, we speak Portuguese. Brazil is mostly Catholic. We have a lot of influences from our African music, right? Samba, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Carnival, but it is an absolute treat. It's some of the funnest times I've ever had in my life. If you want to enjoy it, go to Brazil around mid-February, sometimes March. It's a beautiful celebration of life. It's just you have beautiful street parades and dances. It is just it's the time to be in Brazil. And then indigenous people, as we said, cassava, a lot of medicinal knowledge as well. We love our hammocks in Brazil that came from them. And then a lot of new farming techniques and different influences from the continuous immigration of different folks throughout the years. So now we're going to get into the yummy stuff. So exploring Brazil through food from norte ao sul, from north to south. So the north of Brazil, where the rainforest, the Amazon is, it's really rooted in indigenous food traditions and really the diversity of ingredients, the biodiversity of the Amazon. In the cuisine of the north of Brazil, there's a lot of different ingredients, as we mentioned, cassava or tapioca, açaí. Açaí has become popular here in the US. I mean, I grew up eating copious amounts of açaí. Absolutely love it. It was such a special little treat. And here in the US, they eat it similarly than we do in Brazil. So sometimes it's like a smoothie, or you add fruits and nuts and granola, have it for breakfast. But the way we enjoy açaí is very, very diverse in Brazil. I know in the north, they also consume açaí in a savory manner. So they make like a soup, like an açaí savory soup, and then they'll have it with fish. And we'll talk a little bit about it as well, but it's called farofa. Farofa is one of my favorite foods. And just for you to visualize it, sadly, it looks like sand. But it is a very crunchy, delicious side to sometimes like creamy or soupy dishes. Like we eat it every day with every meal. It's like rice, beans, and farofa. And then in the north, so cupuaçu is a beautiful, delicious, creamy fruit. The fruit of cupuaçu can also be compared to, I don't know if any of y'all have ever eaten cacao fruit. But inside of the cacao inside of the cacao fruit is the cacao where the chocolate comes from. But similar to cupuaçu, it has this beautiful white, tangy, and sweet meat around it that is delicious to eat, as well as juices. So that's kind of what cupuaçu. It's like a creamy white fruit that's incredible. River fish, of course, and then we have a couple of their signature dishes that. I love the way some of these words sound, and we'll dive deep into them. But we have dishes like tacacá, pato no tucupi, maniçoba, which rely on cassava preparations techniques and really mix the flavors and the ingredients from the region. Northeast, so vibrant coastal cuisine. As I said, like the Northeast of Brazil has beautiful, incredible people, some of the best people I've ever met, some of the most incredibly flavorful food, and the beaches are like breathtaking. I know when you think about Brazil, sometimes you think about Copacabana or Ipanema, but those beaches got nothing compared to the beaches of the Northeast. Those places are like a heaven on earth, a piece of paradise. So the Northeast, it is coastal, beautiful. There is, to this day, a really strong African influence, not only in the food, but in the culture, in the dress, in music. Obviously, there are also indigenous and Portuguese traditions, but some of the most iconic dishes that I grew up not only eating, but also helping to make. My dad was an excellent, excellent cook. And he would make me help him, but it ended up panning out because now cooking, baking, developing recipes is one of my favorite things to do and something that relaxes me from my really stressful day job. So acarajé, which we talked about, that beautiful deep fried fritter that's filled with all of these delicious fillings like vatapá, which is creamy, incredible. We have moqueca, baião de dois, just really bold flavors that are built around the azeite de dendê, the dendê palm oil that is permeated across so many dishes in the Northeast. Coconut milk, rice, beans, fresh herbs that really define the region's traditions and dishes. The Midwest, the Centro-Oeste, indigenous ingredients, but also ranching traditions. And the biodiversity of the Cerrado and the wetlands. So the Cerrado are the mountains, and the Pantanal are the low wetlands that are just this beautiful, beautiful area in the Midwest that during the rainy seasons, it gets really alligated, really full. The rivers flow over and just everything transforms. It's absolutely breathtaking, has incredible biodiversity, wildlife that's incredible, and it's a great place to visit. So different specialties like the empadão, which is like a hearty, delicious pie, and we'll get into all of these individual ones. Rice with pequi, a lot of freshwater fish, of course. There are a lot of rivers there, and it really brings that art, like the agricultural heart of the country. Southeast, a lot of Portuguese, indigenous, African, and other immigrant traditions. Iconic dishes from there, Pão de Queijo from Minas Gerais, beans, moqueca from the region, and a lot of staples, cassava, corn, pork, leafy greens, a lot of seafood as well in the Southeast, at least on the coastal cities. And in the South, which is the coldest region in Brazil, a lot of European immigration, Italians, German, Portuguese, Ukrainian, Polish, and a lot of plantain cultures because it's so close to Uruguay and Argentina. There's a lot of that influence as well. And then there's a lot of different traditions. Chimarrão is one of them. If you look up here on the south, chimarrão is herb. It's called mate. It is consumed in a lot of other countries in Brazil in different ways, hot, cold. The way they do in the south, in the Serra Gaúcha, is they have that little cuca, the little cup, and it's filled with the mate leaves. They fill it up with really hot water. And if you see this little spout or straw in the bottom of it, there's like a little filter. And it's, yeah, people drink that day in, day out. It's not just a drink. It's really, it's part of the culture. So let's dive in. So we'll start with Sabores do Norte, which is translated flavors of the North, which we talked about a little bit. So the biodiversity, right? The culinary traditions, communities, a lot of ingredients from the rainforest, the diverse and gigantic river systems, and really creating flavors that, and this is real, like rarely found elsewhere. I am not from the north of Brazil, and as I mentioned, Brazil is gigantic, and seeing all of it, even being from there, is really, really hard. So some of these dishes were also really cool for me to understand more. I spoke to friends from the north that gave me some tidbits, but some of these dishes are really, really unique. So first, we'll talk about the tacacá, which is this one right here. So it's a hot Amazonian soup. It has a really bold, tangy broth. It's made with dried shrimp, jambu, and then something called tucupi broth. So tucupi is a fermented sauce. It's made from cassava root that we talked about, tapioca. And if you didn't know, actually, cassava is very, very toxic. And it has to be processed thoroughly with grating, fermenting, boiling, so that it is safe to eat. But it is a really delicious dish. So what that tucupi broth does, it's really bright. It's a little sour, also very aromatic. And they also use a herb called jambu. And jambu has a natural tingling sensation to it, so it numbs your mouth. I tried a jambu liqueur once, and the tingling was pretty overwhelming. I was like, what is happening inside my mouth? It doesn't last very long, but it's really, really, really unique. Like Sichuan peppers, sometimes they numb your mouth, but I felt that the jambu was a completely different mouth experience for me. And I went back for more because I was like, okay, this is overwhelming, but this is also really fun. And it was delicious. Next, we have here at the bottom, which is a duck dish, pato no tucupi. So it's duck that's slowly cooked in tucupi, which is the broth that I just described, made from the cassava root. The duck, like the richness of the duck, it just works really, really well with that tangy, bright broth. It could be compared to like a braised duck or other like roasted or deeply like cooked poultry dishes in the US, but it's a lot lighter, vibrant flavor. And pato no tucupi, and a lot of times it's served during special celebrations in the Amazon River. And then we have the manisoba. So manisoba is it's really a rich, deep, savory stew that is made. So you could see here the color, like you'll add different meats, but it's made with the cassava tapioca leaf. Um, the cooking process takes a very, very long time, and it transforms it to this really dark, hearty, and it's usually cooked with different cuts of pork. So you can compare it to like maybe collard greens, but it is the flavors are very deep and earthy. And then the last one is tapioca recheada. I absolutely love this. This is eaten absolutely everywhere in Brazil. So it's really cool how it goes from like it's like the texture is like dusty kind of, but like a coarse, yeah, so it's like a coarse flour. And all you literally have to do is you get a pan, like a frying pan, you put it in the pan, you tap it down, and then it starts cooking, and then it gets this really cool crispy, but then like a chewy texture, and then you fill it with whatever you want. In this one here, it's a dried meat with some cheese. But there are so many different types. People sometimes throw some strawberries and Nutella in there, have a good old time. I think maybe a peanut butter and jelly tapioca would be delicious. We eat this everywhere, for breakfast, lunch, as a snack. It is incredible. I love it. I always have that at home. Next, Northeast. So where I lived for a long time in my life. So there's a lot of Afro-Brazilian culinary traditions in the Northeast, as I mentioned. Coastal geography, a lot of tropical ingredients, a lot of fresh fruit, fresh produce, and really intense, strong flavors and colors. And a lot of the food in the Northeast, especially the dendê palm oil, it's definitely an ingredient that is eaten across the board, but it also has a lot of religious links and traditions to the candomblé religion that is practiced a lot across Brazil, really, and a lot in the Northeast as well. So acarajé, we talked about it. So it is a deep fried fritter. It's made from black-eyed peas. And it's really cool to see the baianas. Baianas are a lot of acarajé is sold by baianas, which are the women that make it, prepare it. They have street stands, restaurants, and they have these big like mortar, like, and then they just like beat the black-eyed peas until this beautiful, like creamy white paste that is then deep fried in the dendê palm oil that gives it that like red, luscious color. This is actually a photo of the acarajé that I enjoyed a few years ago, last time I went to Bahia, to Salvador, to see my family. It is incredible. And then it's filled with so many yummy things. So vatapá, which we'll jump into it a little bit, but it's a very creamy, delicious, yeah, it's like a beautiful cream. that you add. And then we have caruru. Caruru is made with okra. I love it. I've always loved okra. I even love the stringy kind of texture that it has. We add shrimps and then vinagrete. So vinagrete is kind of our version of salsa. So like tomatoes, onions, cilantro, lime, some peppers, and acarajé is eaten everywhere all the time. It could be a really large one that's like looks like a very large burger, but different, little bite-sized, and it's enjoyed all around Brazil. But where you're going to find the best ones is going to be in Bahia. And then the moqueca. So moqueca is a beautiful, delicious seafood stew. So you can make it with either shrimp or with different types of fish. Some people even make it with chicken if they're not fish fans, but traditionally it's fish. It isn't a dish that is really hard to make, but as a lot of things, it takes time, right? Time is the best ingredient. So we have these traditional beautiful clay pots. My dad used to make these a lot for me and for my family. My uncle actually, he would not eat fish, and so he would make a big fish one for everyone, and he would make him a chicken one that he couldn't shut up about, which is very, very delicious. But what you do is then you layer the fish, and then you add like tomatoes, cilantros, pepper, and then different spices, and then the beautiful the palm oil, and then the coconut milk, and then you just let it cook, and it gets so soft and beautiful. It melts in your mouth, and it's usually paired with the farofa that we talked about. Remember the delicious edible sand, and with rice in a lot of situations, and a beautiful fresh salad. Vatapá. Vatapá is one of the ingredients that you eat traditionally with acarajé, but vatapá is also eaten as its own dish, either with some rice or farofa, or as a side or a part of a broader meal. It's made from dried bread and then shrimp, peanuts, cashew, coconut milk, dendê oil. It's really a distinct flavor, but we eat it a lot. I remember making vatapá with a friend of my dad. She was the queen of flavors in Salvador. And then baião de dois. As we continue moving through, you'll see different versions of baião de dois, which is like a really comforting dish, which is like a mix of rice and beans that's cooked together, sometimes with different meats, sometimes with the cassava flour, the farofa mixed in the middle. In the Northeast, their baião de dois, they also add queijo coalho. Queijo coalho is my favorite cheese. If you can compare it to like the Wisconsin cheese curds. It is very squeaky when you eat it, and you'll be able to eat this a lot when you go to the beach. They have people selling them, grilling them in front of you. It's a great time. And then acarajé comes from the Yoruba language of West Africa that means to eat a ball of fire. So the little fritters fried in the hot dendê oil. And then Midwest. So as we said, the Cerrado, the Pantanal, that region where there's a lot of rice, beef, freshwater fish, but stews and hearty foods. So here we'll see a couple different dishes from the region. So the flavors of the Midwest of Brazil. So as we mentioned, it was an immigration, not from different countries, but a lot of people from São Paulo in the southeast, people from Minas Gerais. There was a big rubber boom in the region, as well as the agricultural boom. So a lot of those folks came in, and so a lot of the dishes are, extremely hearty, but there's also an influence of a lot of different ingredients in the area. I know we talked a little bit about the Pantanal and the Cerrado, but it really is incredible to see how these regions transform. As I mentioned, so in the Pantanal, it is so they're the lowlands. So during, as I mentioned, I think it was November to April, rainy season, it gets really full. And then the wildlife just transformed. There's a lot of jaguars, so many different types of fish, birds. And one of the really cool things that you could see in that Pantanal region is how wildlife and plants and trees adapt to extremes in weather, right? From a semi-desert dry to just a swampland full of water, gigantic rivers that are overflowing, and how they adapt to that is really cool. And then in the Cerrado are the mountains, loved by a lot of like ecotourism. The mountains are breathtaking. They're beautiful. And it's just such a cool place in Brazil. So we'll talk a little bit now about some of their iconic foods. So the first is arroz com pequi, which is rice with pequi. So it's a really fragrant dish that is cooked with this fruit that is called pequi. It's bright yellow and it's native to the Cerrado, right, to the mountains. It has a really strong, like distinctive aroma, and then a little bit of like a cheesy, nutty flavor. But an interesting call out, I'm like the way that this fruit is, it has a really thick exterior, and then you cut through it, and that's where you can see these little yellow fruits in them. And they're usually cooked with rice or chicken. And it is really eaten, and it's like really part of it. It is an ingredient that is like you either are obsessed and you love it and you can't get enough of it, or you don't. But if you ever are in the Centro-Oeste of Brazil and they offer you a pequi, beware, because if you could see here, that's the fruit cut in half. If you can see here in the corner with the white nut, but all of these little lines. There are a bunch of tiny spines, so be careful when eating it so you don't get that stuck in the roof of your mouth or in your throat. But pequi is loved across the Midwest. The second one is empadão that we talked about a little bit, empadão goiano. And in Brazil, there's a lot of different variations of this. This is like it's like a beautiful, delicious chicken pot pie, but it's filled sometimes with chicken, with sausage, with pork, with cheese, vegetables, and then what really makes this from the Centro-Oeste, the Midwest, is the guariroba palm heart. So palm heart, don't get me started. It's one of my absolute favorite things. If you're not familiar with the heart of palm, what it is in the name. So you'll get palm trees, and they're very specific palm trees. I don't think it's like the palm trees you find in Miami, but very specific palm trees across different regions in Brazil. And you basically cut the palm tree in half, and inside of it, it's this beautiful white. It's like a fleshy vegetable, I would say. But we eat a lot of heart of palm in Brazil. I'm obsessed. Whenever I find it here, I'll buy like a jar. They're sometimes like pickled in like salty water, and I have to hold myself from eating the entire thing in one sitting. It's just so yummy. In Brazil, one thing we do with the heart of palm, they'll like get it straight off the tree, and then they'll grill it like right on the table. Sometimes in different restaurants we'll have that, similar to like Korean barbecue, and then they'll grill that beautiful heart of palm and then cover it in parsley and butter, and then it just melts right off, and it's like perfectly paired with like meats and chickens. It is delicious. I miss heart of palm. I remember eating heart of palm at like 3, 4 years old. I could not get enough. This specific one, which is the guariroba from the Midwest. I've never tried it. Now I'm really, really curious because it's a little bit bitter. But for me personally, I love things that have a little bitterness to it. So I'm really excited to see if I can find it and try it. The second one here is the mujica de pintado. So pintado is a type of fish. So it's a really thick hearty stew. It could be a little bit similar to what we discussed with the Northeast, the moqueca, but it's a little bit different. It's made with fish, and then you could see the cassava, the chunks of cassava here are cooked, and then there's herbs. One of the things that like I love about cassava as well, especially in this form, when you like cook cassava in a stew, the texture is somewhat similar to like a cooked potato, but it's really hearty. It's a little creamier than potato that sometimes could like be a little bit more crumbly, but it is very delicious. And we also enjoy copious amounts of tapioca fries. So we deep fry the cassava tapioca into little sticks. I think we had a photo of it up top. And it's absolutely delicious. It's Brazilian French fries. Um, and then last one here for the Midwest is the caldo de piranha. So you're seeing it right, folks. It is piranha. So that really scary fish from the Amazon River. I don't know if you've ever seen videos of them. I have, where either it's the rest of a carcass of a buffalo. We have water buffaloes in the region, or a cow or what have you. They submerge it. Those piranhas just eat it up in a matter of seconds. With you can kind of see here, they're really, really, really sharp teeth. But even though in Brazil as well, across like away from this region where they eat a lot of piranha, people don't believe or don't think that we like that there are different areas in Brazil that eat piranha, but it is wildly common in this region, consumed, eaten, in a lot of situations. Like if you go to visit, you'll do a tour. Sometimes you could go and you can tour and you can fish. You could fish the piranha and then you'll take it back and they'll prepare it and cook for you. But this is the caldo de piranha. It's a traditional fish. So there's peppers, herbs, tomato. Sometimes it's we use cassava flour to thicken it, to give it a little bit of a thicker consistency to it, kind of similar to the vatapá that we talked about. So kind of things overlap and interchange, but it is a very savory, comforting, and it is often believed sometimes to have aphrodisiac properties. So it makes you a little spicy. I don't know. I have not tried it, but I'll report back once I did. And then another dish that I just think that this is a funny fact, and I think that's a really funny name, which is called vaca atolada, which is literally stuck cow. So a cow that is stuck. So it gets its name. So as I mentioned before, there was a big like move from São Paulo and Minas in the southeast into the Midwest region because of the agriculture and the rubber boom and all of that. But because of the terrain, right, as I said, in the Pantanal, sometimes it gets a lot of water. It's really, really muddy. And so it got its name because sometimes the cows would get stuck in the mud and ranchers would, stop, take a little break. And they would, in a lot of these situations, like that's where the vaca atolada actual dish came from. They would preserve beef and fat because they were walking for a very long time. And then during their walks, they would forage cassava and then, make some beautiful dishes with it. But I think vaca atolada is such a funny name. Okay, so enough with the Midwest. Now we are going to the Southeast. So the Southeast is Rio, Minas Gerais, São Paulo, and I'm from Rio, born and raised. But my heart is in the Southeast and in the Northeast. I'm a little bit divided because just amazing food and experiences in my life that made me who I am. So the flavors of the Southeast. So there's a rich blend, of course, Portuguese, African, Indigenous, and then the European immigrant influences. And really the Southeast is our most diverse, mixed, melting pot in Brazil. So as we mentioned, like the Japanese community, which is the largest Japanese community outside of Japan, is in Brazil. We are obsessed with sushi in Brazil. You'll get some of the best sushi in your life in Brazil. And there's always twists to it. So you have beautiful, delicious, traditional sushi, but you also have some crazy inventions that, you know, Brazilians' wild imagination takes you there, but it's always an absolute delight. So there are, right? It is a big mix from the Japanese to the Middle East, for a lot of Middle Eastern folks within the south east of Brazil that just make it what it is. A lot of beans, pork, dairy, corn, cassava, seafood that really shapes it up. So some of the main dishes, we have pão de queijo, and this is the Brazilian cheese bread. This is a photo of my brand, my product, Nina's Noms. So we talked a little bit about it before, but pão de queijo is just, you know, a bite of heaven. That's also one of the reasons I started Nina's Noms. I could not. I missed it so much. I couldn't find anything that was good enough. So I was also like, you know what? Let me start my own. It's a little cheese bread. So it's made with tapioca starch, cheese, milk, eggs, and really how pão de queijo started in Minas Gerais. So in Brazil, the reason why we also use a lot of tapioca and cassava flour is we only got introduced to Brazil way after. And in, you know, the 1700s, wheat was really, really expensive. So they used tapioca starch to make a lot of different breads. And there isn't really like a specific person that invented pão de queijo. There isn't a specific origin to pão de queijo, but it did start in Minas Gerais. Minas Gerais is where our cheese industry, like our main cheese industry, and it still is with like award-winning cheeses. There's this incredible cheese called queijo Minas, which is a very light, soft, delicious white cheese that we eat with absolutely everything. You can kind of compare it to like a fresh mozzarella, but it is a lot lighter in its flavor. So the way that it started in Minas, because of the cheese industry, you know, at the end of every day after they were processing the cheese, there were a lot of like hardened cheese corners and bits that weren't been able to sell. So what they would do is they would incorporate that into the doughs that they would make with cassava flour, and that's kind of where it began. Pão de queijo had its big boom in the 1950s. We've been eating them like forever, but the big boom it was in the 1950s, and I mean we can't get enough. You eat pão de queijo morning, noon, night. It's, you know, when you say pão de queijo, Brazilian will smile because it lives in our hearts, a part of our DNA. And then another dish. This is a really like it is a very popular dish in Brazil. We absolutely love feijoada, which is an incredible stew. It's really popular. Like if anybody's been to Brazil or knows a little bit about Brazil, they will know what a feijoada is. But what it is black beans, and it's cooked for hours with beautiful pieces of pork and different sausages and bacon and bay leaves and garlic and onions, and it's cooked for hours and hours and hours. It's really a feast. So beans, we eat beans in Brazil like literally every day. If I had a last row meal for me, it would be beans, rice, and remember the sand, the farofa, and some Brazilian style chicken stroganoff. Like that is what I want to eat every day. We eat beans and rice with every meal in Brazil all the time. It varies. So in Rio, we eat a lot of black beans. And then in São Paulo and some other places in the north, they'll eat a lot of brown beans as well. And there's always a bit of a kerfuffle and a fight on which bean is the best bean. But honestly, for me, all beans are delicious beans, and I can't get enough of beans. But feijoada is kind of beans and rice on steroids, on the next level. So it's a beautiful feast prepared with all of the meats, and then it's usually paired, as you can see here, with rice. You could see the green because it's very traditional. It's I'm going to compare it to collard greens, but it's not. But it's similar, which is couve, and it's usually cooked with beautiful butter and some bacon. And then we'll have like the fried tapioca. And here you could see the farofa we've been talking about. So that's what it looks like. It looks a little bit like sand, but it's like crispy, crunchy. You could add a bacon to it because bacon makes everything better. And it's very delicious. And the reason why you're seeing oranges here, in Brazil, we love eating oranges. I miss eating oranges. After a meal, you sit down with dad, mom, siblings, and you just peel oranges and just eat copious amounts of them. But the actual reason why the oranges are there is because feijoada is also a very fatty food. We eat it so that the acid cuts a little bit like that. And feijoada is like really a tradition. In Rio, feijoada is usually eaten on Saturday, and it's not a meal, it's an event. You eat it with friends, across many, many hours, and drinking a lot of delicious caipirinhas, which is Brazil's signature cocktail, which is cachaça, which is our version of rum, and then different types of fruit smashed in with some sugar. We use lots of different fruits, but the staple one is the one made with lime. But if you ever meet a Brazilian, or if you ever go to Brazil and they start offering a lot of caipirinhas, they're going to go down really, really smooth, but they will knock you for a loop if you don't be careful. When you stand up, you might just tip over, so be careful. They're delicious, but they'll sneak up on you. And then virado paulista, it is a traditional dish from São Paulo. And like this is, you can see there's like some overlap with the feijoada. So it's like a bean stew, but a little bit different. It looks a little bit like refried beans with different meats. They have, the sautéed greens that they also eat in the feijoada, and then like deep fried bananas, which are really, really delicious. Another quick little rabbit hole. It's really popular in Brazil to just like, you'll have a plate of food. It could be like a pasta dish or beans and rice or some stroganoff and rice, and people will just slap on one or two just straight up bananas and eat it together with the food, which we absolutely enjoy and love. So that's the virado paulista, which is very traditional from São Paulo. And it just kind of shows that travel trader routes and that mix. And then here we have the moqueca capixaba. So we talked about the version from the Northeast, from Bahia, which is it's similar in the way that it's prepared, but it's cooked without coconut milk or dendê oil. It uses like annatto, which brings it that bright kind of yellow color to it. But a lot of the other flavors are similar to that. But one of the things, I mean, my grandmother was from Espírito Santo, which is where the moqueca capixaba, people from Espírito Santo in the southeast, they're called capixabas. And we would visit there a lot during the summers and hang out with grandma and grandpa. But you could absolutely not bring up the moqueca from the capixaba versus the baiana. People will agree to disagree. Very similar in São Paulo. And I'm from Rio, but also lived in São Paulo. There's a big feud, which is cookies versus biscuits. And when I'm saying that, it's like Oreos. In São Paulo, they say they say bolacha, which is biscuit, and in Rio they say biscoito. And I've seen some adult humans with multiple children and wonderful careers, lose their breath fighting about if it's a biscuit or a cookie. So very similar to the moqueca capixaba. And just a little fun fact about my favorite thing, pão de queijo. So Taste Atlas ranked pão de queijo the 12th best bread in the world, which made me a little disappointed. But us Brazilians, we know it deserves that #1 spot because we literally consume almost 500,000 tons every year across the country. Okay, flavors of the South. So as we talked about that a little bit, the cuisine of the South has a lot of European influences, a lot of Italians, a lot of German, as I said, Polish, Ukrainian. They have pierogies, a lot of pasta, a lot of wine. And when you think about Brazil, there is a lot of, you know, across the board, like you think, oh, it's tropical, oh, it's hot, it's warm. But honestly, if you go south, 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 you know, once every couple of years, it might actually snow and, you know, be like 0 degrees for a few days, and then everybody is frozen. But that's a little bit of the different of the extreme south to the north, also in um, temperatures. My stepdad was from Porto Alegre in the south, and he used to make a lot of his favorite dishes. Talk a lot about, you know, pinhão, chimarrão. We would drink a lot of chimarrão as well growing up, because of him. So some of the dishes. So this first one is probably the dish or the food from Brazil that people are most familiar with, because here in the US we have the fogo de chão or the fogo de chão steakhouses, the all-you-can-eat steakhouses, or the Taste de Brazil. So there's a lot, I think there's a little bit more familiarity. And while churrasco is like, it's a social thing, actually. Not to say that in Brazil we don't have the all-you-can-eat restaurants and that we eat, we love, we enjoy. But actually, when you say churrasco, which started in the south of Brazil with the gauchos, with the influences that we talked about from from Argentina, from Uruguay, right? Those gauchos were kind of our southern cowboys. And they would prepare meat just on an open fire with just a little salt, really simply, and then just slowly grilled. And that to this day is how churrasco is made in Brazil across the board. Just a little salt, let them that flavor of the meat stand out. So that's where it's rooted. That's where it started. But when it comes to churrasco, as I said, as you could see here, you could see like this is the vision of a churrasco. It's just, you know, a bunch of happy people eating copious amounts of meat. And really, it isn't a food, it's a long, long social event. You'll be like, hey, vamos fazer um churrasco. Hey, let's make a churrasco. And honestly, I've been to countless churrascos. Sometimes a churrasco will legitimately start at like noon and it will end at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, because it's just continuous celebration of food. So like, and it's not like everybody goes and cooks and sits down and eats. It's like bites and food throughout those hours, right? So you're basically having multiple meals throughout the multiple hours. And then obviously we drink a lot of Brazilian beer with it. And it's really interesting because churrascos do last so long, but in a lot of situations, it's not all the same people. So you'll start with a group and then in a couple hours, oh, we got to get home to the kids. Oh, and then the new group comes and then more people come. And it's just food, 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 chatting, 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 swimming, having an incredible time. Me talking about this makes me want to go to a churrasco. But the roots were in the south of Brazil, and then it just became um churrasco, churrasco. Vamos fazer um churrasco. The second one is arroz a carreteiro, which I absolutely enjoy. I love rice, and I love the way that it's prepared. As we saw a couple similar ones, like the one from the Northeast, Baião de Dois. It's a little different. This one doesn't have the cheese. But it's basically prepared with rice and dried beef. So or it's called charque. But in the south of Brazil, there was also a lot of dried, you know, beef in the region, and it was prepared by traveling cowboys, the tropeiros. And yeah, it's a really hearty, delicious meal. And then galeto ao primo canto. That's the version in the south. And it could be compared to like the rotisserie chickens, but this one in particular is a little bit different because the galeto al primo is a really tiny, like a smaller, very young chicken. It's usually like 20 days old. And it's a traditional Italian influenced dish where you roast it and then it is like it's usually served, as you can see, like that's where the Italian influence come in. They could either have it with like deep fried polenta or soft polenta with some pasta. It has some wine, but Galeto is very, very popular across all of Brazil. And it's really enjoyed very similarly. So you just have this incredible, juicy, delicious chicken with all of these incredible, crispy, creamy sides to it. And one of like my childhood like memories, my grandpa and I, we were really close. I loved him dearly. He was a he was a handful, but he was really, really special. I really, really miss him. And I have a lot of sweet memories going to different galeterias in Rio with him and just the two of us having a sneaky little feast. And it's some of the best chicken that I've ever had. I think about it constantly and always eat it with farofa. And then piñão. So piñão is a really, really beloved snack in the South. It comes from like a pine tree. It's called araucaria. And the way that it's prepared, it's a mix, right? It could either be boiled, roasted, and it's consumed during the colder months. So sometimes it's like hot and like boiled, so it's like a nice hot little snack. It's a little similar texture to a chestnut, but not the same. But like you can kind of wrap your head around it. And people are really obsessed with piñão in the South, and they get so excited when harvest season comes along because piñão, because of deforestation, there's actually very, very strict laws of when it's allowed to harvest. So from April 1st or 15th, depends on the specific location, till the end of June is when people are legally allowed to harvest and enjoy it. So whenever it's like right now, what we're March 18th, ooh, people are getting excited to eat some piñão. They can't wait for when it's time to snack away on them. And as we talked about the traditional churrasco, it is some of the funnest times and the craziest times I've had. And maybe you could try to have one at home, just make a lot of delicious meats, make some farofa. It's not hard to find the ingredients, some rice, some black beans, and invite people and drink beer. It is always a great time. Okay, now to change and clear our palate a little bit, docinho. Docinho is the way we say like a little something sweet. And Brazilians are, in Brazil, we say ants. You're a little ant because you like sweet things. You're a formiguinha. In Brazilian, we have like a really strong dessert and sweet culture in Brazil after every meal. Sometimes it's so hard. You're like, oh, I'm trying to, keep my waist slim, but I'm coming out of lunch in the office. And my friends are like, oh, let's just go have a little cafezinho, a little coffee, and a little docinho, and a little sweet. And in a lot of situations, it's absolutely impossible to say no. I'll talk about some of these. These are some of my favorites. We could start with a bolo de cenoura, this one right here. So it's a carrot cake, but it's very different than the American carrot cake. It is made with carrots. That's what gets its really bright orange color. They're just blend up straight carrots with the cake. But it doesn't have the actual like grated carrots and the raisins and nuts and all of that. It really the bolo de cenoura, so it does have carrots, but it's covered in this like really indulgent brigadeiro, which is to the right. We'll talk about that a little bit, but it's this creamy, fudgy, delicious covering that we use in bolo de cenoura. And I just absolutely love it with a little cup of coffee or a little latte or a little tea. It's incredible. One thing that I also missed, apart from what I talked about earlier, the juice, because there's no juice like Brazilian juice or tropical country juice. I really miss the culture of cake. We have a strong cake culture that I immediately missed when came to the US. So wherever you go, no matter where you go to anybody's house, the first thing you'll walk in, if it's like the afternoon, they always be like, okay, so you want a little coffee and a little cake. Everybody always has a cake that's either baking or has been baked that day. And we just have this really deep embedded tradition of different cakes. So obviously this is a carrot cake, orange cake, corn cakes. It's just different types of cakes. And one other thing that I do a lot in my home, if you ever come to my home, I will immediately offer you a juice, a soda, a coffee, a snack, because that's also very much in Brazil. We have that deep passion for sharing food. And a little memory that just came to mind with this like passion for sharing food. Like if you go to someone's house and they don't offer you food, it's rude. Don't offer food, you're rude. But then one of the things that we also do a lot in Brazil is sharing food. And I remember when I was younger, I would take the bus everywhere because I couldn't afford a car until I was way, way older. But you're sitting in the bus and there's someone sitting beside you, and they'll be either eating a sandwich or eating an ice cream or a popsicle or some peanuts. And 99.9% of the time, the person beside you eating that will turn around and offer it to you. And it's just customary. You offer food, you share food. We love food. Beautiful. I'm going to keep talking about sweet, sugary things. So we talked about bolo de cenoura, the rice, the carrot cake, sorry. And then here to the left, this is called bolo de rolo, so a roll cake. So what this is just really thin cake that's rolled, 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 and you can see all of these tremendous, beautiful layers. The very traditional flavor of the bolo de rolo is with guava, and Scott, you'll know from my guava-filled noms, it has a little bit of a similar flavor. But, it could also be filled with doce de leite, with this beautiful brigadeiro, with different flavors. It's so beautiful and intricate, and it has such an incredible texture in your mouth because like all of the layers, and they kind of break it, and they have that sugariness to it. It's absolutely delightful. And then here, right after the bolo de rolo is the pé de moleque, which the translation of this name is kind of interesting. It's going to be a little bit difficult for me to translate the origins of it. I don't think it's going to land, but literally what pé de moleque means like naughty kid, brat kid foot. Because of the color. So like when kids are out playing outside, I grew up not wearing flip-flops and I'm saying flip-flops because we wear flip-flops all the time in Brazil, but I grew up playing barefooted everywhere and would get home and my feet would be the color of the pé de moleque. So it's similar to peanut brittle. My dad, bless him, he would make some of the best pé de moleque in the world. These look a little smaller, but he would make really big, delicious clusters, and he would roast the peanuts himself, and it's just delicious. You could either have it, it could be like really hard and snappy because of the sugar, or it'll be like kind of soft and ooey gooey like a caramel. Brazilians, we love peanuts, which it always, in my mind, it was always very strange to me how like peanut butter didn't take off in Brazil. It still didn't, but we love to eat peanuts in so many other different ways. It's not included here, but another peanut dessert we have, it's called paçoca, which is, I'm going to use sand again, but it's basically like peanuts really mushed down and then mixed with sugar and pressed together. So it's crumbly, but it melts in your mouth. It's kind of like powdered peanut butter, but better. Whenever Americans try, or other people that love peanut butter try paçoca, I brought it to the office a couple weeks ago, and I brought a lot. And I thought people were going to be like, it was gone like that. And they're like, where's the crumbly peanut? Where's the crumbly peanut? So I always have a list of treats to bring back from Brazil. And then the brigadeiro. Brigadeiro is Brazilians like staple brand dessert snack. It's similar to a fudge, but the ingredients are very simple. It is condensed milk, a little butter, and then you could either use cacao or like chocolate, like the kind of chocolate you put in chocolate milk. I know here in the US people make chocolate milk with like Hershey, but in Brazil we drink a lot of like powdered chocolate in our milk. Grew up drinking that, was always a treat. My parents didn't let me have a lot of sugar, but when they did, I always loved it. So that's what brigadeiro is. And so it becomes this beautiful, like chewy, creamy fudge. And then we cover it in these little crispy sprinkles. And they are wildly popular. Like you always have these in like birthday parties or weddings. And there's always a really difficult things when you were little, when you'd go to Brazilian birthday parties. Brazilian birthday parties for kids are an event. It's huge. In a lot of situations, we know it was an excuse for mom and dad to hang out with friends and drink beer and have us all entertain ourselves. But it was always a very big event. And then in the center of the party, you have this big table with like the cake in the middle. And then right beside it, you'd have these beautiful, like intricate, like structures filled with these different sweets, like brigadeiro and beijinho. But the saddest part about it was you could not touch it. It was a no-no until after we sang happy birthday and cut the cake. So it would be hours of us playing and then looking and looking and looking at the sweets because we wanted to eat them so bad. And if you're a little daredevil as myself and you were still a little bit short, you could go under the table and see if no one's looking and just snatch one, put it in your mouth, run away, and have a good old time. Um, and then beijinho is also very similar. It's kind of similar to brigadeiro, made with condensed milk, but with coconut. This was one of my absolute favorites. The only thing I didn't like was biting into it because there's this clove in it that I have like very deep memories of me throwing it in my mouth without remembering to take the clove out. And then you just have that flavor in your mouth, but I love it, could not get enough. We also have our version of a flan. I'm from Brazil. I will always say that the Brazil's is better because that's just, that's just the way you are. So this is our pudim de leite, which is very similar to a flan. So it's made with eggs, condensed milk, and it's blended, and then it's like cooked in a banho-maria, right? With like water in a pan, a bain-marie. My dad was an expert. He was an expert maker of a lot of things, but he would make an incredible pudim de leite as well. And then canjica. I love canjica. I think about canjica. I dream about canjica. And canjica, an easy comparison is sweet rice, like rice pudding here in the US, but this is made with corn kernels. They're like white corn kernels and they have like a really nice chewy texture to it. Then it's cooked for many hours with like condensed milk, with vaporized milk, with lots of different spices. It's enjoyed cold and hot, and it's also especially popular during June, where we have what was called a festa junina, which is a big party where we have a lot of typical foods. There's a lot of events, and you just spend the entire day like drinking warm drinks, warm canjica, dancing. There's a fireplace. It's a great time. Canjica, I absolutely love it. Last but not least is the passion fruit mousse. If you want to know where to find it, ask me the question later. I can give you some great places. This is one of my favorites, and it's also really close to my heart. It's my husband's favorite. He's absolutely obsessed with passion fruit mousse. And I don't know if it's because he married me, but he says that my passion fruit mousse is the best he's ever had. So I'm just going to continue making it and being happy. And what passion fruit mousse is just so delicious because it has this creamy, airy consistency of the mousse. And I don't know if you guys have ever had passion fruit, but it is I was thinking about that the other day. Like, if you had to ask me what my favorite fruit is, I think it's passion fruit, right? And what makes it such an irresistible dessert is it has that smooth texture. So it's usually made with condensed milk, evaporated milk, but a Brazilian version of evaporated milk that is creamier and heavier. And then passion fruit juice, and then you could put a nice, beautiful, like passion fruit caramel or reduction on top of it. And then it has that sweet, tangy, soft deliciousness to it. You have that sweet, tangy caramel on top. But if you've never had passion fruit, I ask you to try because aroma and just the flavor of it, it's so good.
May I suggest you insert where are the places to get these things right now so we just know where to go back and look for it?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so some of the places that you can get this is Brazilian Bowl on Broadway here in Chicago. Same for pudim de leite. You can get flan in many different places. And a flan is also, finding the Brazilian version, probably in Brazilian bowl as well as brigadeiro. And then there's a lot of different Brazilian stores that you can purchase it from. Bolo de rolo is going to be a little bit harder, though.
Well, where to go for places. What about your noms? I was asking you where we can find Nina's noms in Chicago. Or,
Okay.
or is it just Chicago, like Marlon? If you want to get them in, you're in Los Angeles, right? And where can my cousin get them in Los Angeles too?
So I will share my I'll if you could share the deck as well. I have a slide that has my website, and then we deliver all across the US, and we deliver in Chicago as well.
Recording in progress.
So I'll hop onto this really quick, but if we can, I don't know if we can share this presentation with everyone. If not, I could also just put this in the chat. So Nina's Noms in the website, you can find all of our store locations here in the Chicagoland area, as well as order. We distribute across the US, frozen to your home, so you can bake them. And then we also deliver here in the Illinois region. So within our website or through our Instagram, you can contact us and we'll deliver it to your house.
But for now, just to go and buy it, like I can't go downstairs in my slippers to the grocery store. I can buy
In
it.
our website, there's all the stores. Yeah, we have 15 stores across Chicago. We are growing little by little. Nina's Noms is still a baby brand, but we're small but mighty. We're continuing to grow. And within our website, you'll be able to see all of the 15 store locations. If you guys prefer, I could also just add them to the chat or email them to you all. Of course.
Now,
Of course.
any plans? You are just starting out, and you're just working furiously to get your product out. And amazingly beautiful work you're doing. Will you be eventually trying to go across the U.S.?
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely the plan. We're looking to grow. This is our year of growth expansion. So we are a year and a half old. And so this year we're really looking to grow with, like, obviously small, medium, but also larger size retailers, and find ways to really up our distribution. And hopefully we'll be able to be in a lot more stores all across the US.
And then you can quit your day job.
From your mouth to anybody up there, to their ears. That is the goal, hopefully.
And I just want to say something too. When I made your noms, I mentioned to you that it was wonderfully crispy on the outside, and the guava was like fresh picked from the tree. It was such a delicious, what is it, a jam or jelly?
It's a jam, yeah. Yeah, so guava jam, for people like who haven't tried it, it's like a banana, a pineapple, and a strawberry got together and had a beautiful little love baby. That's a little bit of what the flavor is, and it's also very aromatic. It has an incredible aroma and smell to it. I grew up with guava trees in my backyard ever since I was a little girl, so I'd eat copious amounts of guava growing up, and it is a delicious fruit.
It was delectable. And what was unusual too, again, it had the crispy outside and like a chewy inside. And I thought, gee, maybe I didn't cook it enough, but I like it. But you said, yeah, that's the tapioca in there. It can be that way, chewy and crispy at the same time. So I just wanted to relay that. So that's the proper way to eat it. Anyway, continue, please.
No, for sure. So just talking a little bit about Nina's Noms as we discussed. So it comes from, I mean, as you guys can see, hopefully my passion for food came through. I love Brazilian food. I love Brazilian snacks. I love Brazilian flavors. And it's also a cool way to bring a new product, to the US, because it's like a level of innovation, but also something that I'm really, really passionate about. And our first offering, right, to Scott's point, is our Pão de Queijo. And it comes with that beautiful cassava tapioca, culinary history, but just makes such an incredible treat. If anybody was wondering what cassava looks like, this is what it looks like. So there are different species, of course, but it's a really, really big root. And then once you cut it open, it's like white inside, and then obviously used for many different uses. One other great thing about cassava tapioca, it is a more environmentally friendly crop. It is more resistant. It needs less, it uses less rain, less water. So all around, it is a wonderful little treat. And I'm really happy that I'm also bringing the popularity of this dish into the US, into more places, so that cassava itself can continue to grow. And so Nina's Noms, right? So it is authentic Brazilian cheese bread. It's made here in Chicago. We manufacture everything ourselves here in the neighborhood of Bridgeport. So we have a small little factory where we make all of our products. We freeze everything. We distribute everything. Chicago founded, Latina owned business. I'm from Brazil. I'm a woman, and we use a really authentic recipe. It took us over a year to really find that sweet spot that really, was delicious. Very passionate about high quality ingredients. I did work for years in the food industry, and in a lot of situations saw how snacking is made wrong. And I know that obviously with a lot of elbow grease and work, you can create a really good brand that is profitable, but that you could also deliver a food that has good quality, high quality ingredients. You don't have to strip everything out in order to make a profit, right? So that's another one, something that's really near and dear to my heart, is how can we make something delicious, but also something wholesome? If you're going to have a yummy, indulgent snack, that there is, olive oil, whole eggs, really, really good and real ingredients. We're also very active in the community. Here I am in one of my tastings where I met Scott, sharing my love and for the noms with everybody. And yeah, so we're active local markets. We support a lot of Chicago small businesses, not only with our retail partners, but as well as a lot of people that we know and we work with. I'm really growing it from the grounds up. I say this, it's the best Brazilian cheese bread, not because I make it, but because a lot of my customers, a lot of Brazilian customers come and say, yeah, Angelina, this is the absolute best that I've ever had, which makes me extremely happy. So we launched 2024, Brazilian snacking influences, as you could see us on the shelf. This is actually in your building, Scott. That's a photo of the Go Grocer there. So
I know that shelf well.
So yeah, so I mean, Nina's Noms as well, just on how to eat it. Sometimes I want to tell people, when they ask me how to eat it, I'll say, I want to say with your mouth, but that is not it. You could have it for breakfast as a side, as a little bun with a pasta, with a salad, with a soup. You can make little sliders, sandwiches with it, have it on the go with a little tea, a little wine on a little board. So it's a really all-time snack. And I know we're still growing. I know we're still learning, but I have a deep belief in my heart of hearts that, Pão de Queijo, Brazilian cheese bread, is going to be a huge success. And hopefully we'll start eating as much, or if not more, than in Brazil. And then, yeah, so we are a very small businesses, but we're still growing. We'll share the deck here with you, with our website, with my number, Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, please, by all means. And then we'll be able to share this and you can find them, order them, delivery anywhere in the US. I'm really thankful for everyone's time. And if you guys want to try and if you want to support us, it will make us extremely happy. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think we have time for a couple questions.
Oh yeah, Kathy will launch the chat
Okay,
questions.
so we have time for questions as long as you're willing to answer. How's that?
Oh, I will answer. I'm having a great time, you guys.
Great.
I'm so
happy.
glad.
I'm so
glad.
happy.
What are the best Brazilian restaurants in Illinois?
Ooh, in Illinois. So we have obviously your Fogo de Chão, which they're located in a lot of different locations. We have Taste do Brasil. There's an incredible restaurant called Brasileiro, which is like a Brazilian, it's a Brazilian restaurant with some different influences. The chef lived in Brazil for the majority of his childhood and then came here and started that restaurant in Oak Park. There is a beautiful cafe called, I think, Mulata, and they serve incredible pastries, and then Brazilian bowl as well. They have like, it's like a Brazilian version of Chipotle, but then they have all the best desserts. They have all our yummy drinks, and a lot of different snacks that you could purchase. You can buy the flour to make the farofa. But yeah.
Brazilian cookbooks.
Ooh, I could share a couple. I could share a couple. I received a list, Kathy. We could add that to the
That would be great.
we could add it to the deck because I was talking to the Brazilian consulate, and they shared a few with me. So I will definitely add those here.
Okay, how big is the cacao industry?
Ooh, the cacao industry in Brazil.
Yes.
So I am by no means an expert in cacao, but I do have some facts, and I did work for Mondelez that makes chocolate. So the cacao industry in Brazil it's relatively large, but sadly, I think it was in the 60s or 70s, and the cacao was mostly in the northeast. I would eat a lot of the cacao fruit when I lived in Salvador. We actually lived in a house that our neighbor had a cacao tree that would kind of invade our house, and we would steal their fruit, but don't tell anyone. But so yeah, in the Northeast is where the majority of the cacao farms were. But in the 60s or 70s, if I'm not mistaken, we had a dear friend that his dad was a cacao farmer for many years. There was like a pest that literally came through and decimated the Brazilian cacao industry and crops. It has now been able to grow a little bit, but it got hit pretty significantly. I mean, a lot of the cacao is now purchased from different countries in Africa and Brazil as well. But it was never the same again after that. But it is fairly large, and I believe we do export and also consume a lot of it. Brazilians absolutely love chocolate.
How is palm oil used in Brazil? In the US, it has negative implications on the health and environment and sustainability.
So the palm oil I was talking about is the dendê palm, and I think it might be a different species than the palm oil that we use here. It is, as I mentioned, right, the palm oil in the northeast of Brazil, that's where it's the most prevalent. It just has a huge cultural significance to it. Not only cultural, but also religious. As I mentioned, different religions like Candomblé have a really strong link to the azeite de dendê that came from the African people. So it is used mostly concentrated in the Northeast, not absolutely everywhere, and it might be a little bit different.
How do you know that if you eat these things, and it was food with cassava at a festival, that the cassava has been processed correctly?
The cassava nowadays, any cassava that you will eat, don't worry, it will be processed correctly. I mean, it was, especially because it'll be like, I don't think you'll be having something, straight from the earth. It will either have been processed or packaged, or so you will be fine. Don't worry. You'll know. I don't think there's any cassava out there. It takes a process, but it's not risk. There's no risk.
Do Brazilians have cookware that is unique to their food preparation?
Oof. Yes, I mean, we love to do a lot of things. Like when I came to the US, I was deeply shocked with like all of the different equipment, so many different pieces of equipment. We do a lot of things a lot more manually in Brazil. We use like we don't use a lot of like plastic or different cutlery or things in the kitchen. We use a lot of wooden spoons and wooden mallets, and yeah, so there's a lot less automation. It's a lot more manual, very similar, like, but I think a big difference in the cookware and how we use it, it's a lot more manual process versus automated.
What spices are used in the seafood stews?
Ooh, so azeite de dendê, they'll use like different peppers. We'll use salt. There's so like our holy grail in Brazil, but it obviously varies in the different regions. But our holy grail's a lot of garlic, a lot of onions, a lot of bell peppers, cilantro, and then your salt. And yeah, that's our holy grail. Everything in Brazil starts with a copious amount of fresh garlic, onions, cilantro.
Okay. Can you tell us more about the processing needed to remove the toxins from cassava?
Yeah, so I'm not a deep expert, but it takes so as I mentioned, it takes a long time, and it's a mix between cooking, fermenting, extracting in order to get that out. And there's different levels, I think, from like the cassava leaves to the actual cassava root.
Okay. Brazilian bowl. What was the other one she mentioned? I have no idea, so.
Brazilian bowl. There's another one called Brazil. It's Brasil Legal, but it's Brazil legal. And then Brasero, which is Brasero. And then, I mean, fogo de chão, the fogo de chão, and taste of Brazil. You'll be able to find the beans, the rice, the farofa, the meats, the pão de queijo.
This might be a little tricky, but just in case, what is in that jar in the photo? Is it fermented? But my feeling is you have to figure out which one that is, and that might be tough.
The jar in the photo. What jar?
This was after you had disappeared for a moment.
Oh. Was it with is it this? Is it the jar in this photo?
Let me go ask Ellen.
Sorry, I mean, if it's this is the only jar I can see, unless there's another one. That is, we had a photo shoot day, unless there's one here. Yeah, no, there's a photo shoot that's just fruit, lemons, and strawberries, and different fruit, and some sparkling water.
Okay. Oh, Ellen, I think you're unmuted. Can you explain?
Yes, I'm trying to get back to the picture. You just flashed it a second ago, and it was a photo of you with a large jar that looked like there were layers of fruit.
Yes,
Oh, we're
yes.
looking at it.
Is it
Okay.
this one? Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So it's, yep. I mean, as I said, like a lot of fresh fruit in Brazil. So it's like there's lemons, limes, strawberries, apples, oranges, and then some sparkling water in it.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, of course. It's really refreshing. It was a very hot day.
Okay.
We were doing a photo
So
shoot
why? Oh, that's okay. Oh, yeah. You live with what you got, right? Why do cassava flowers in the USA always have warnings about lead? I know it's a root, but potatoes are too, and they do not have a warning on the label. And that might be
Sorry,
just...
can you repeat that question?
So it has to do with cassava flour.
Yeah.
It has a warning about lead.
Okay.
And she wanted to know, is it the root? Because, potatoes are also, grown in the soil, but there's no warnings about lead. And it might be just something that somebody needs to research too.
I think I mean, it might be, it can absorb lead from contaminated soil, or from natural deposits. So that's probably where it comes from. There's a high starch content, that, yeah, I think that's where it comes from.
Oh, here's another cassava question. Some stores sell unprocessed cassava, like the roots in your photo. Do those need to be treated
No.
differently?
No, they do not.
Okay, great. By the way, somebody said, I think this is a good fit for Shark Tank.
Oh my God, I know. A lot of people tell me to go to Shark Tank. It is on It's on my to-do list, but in a lot of situations, especially with emerging brands, we get to do pitches with different retailers. So there's usually big events with a lot of small, medium-sized brands that then do big pitches to different retailers. And let me tell you, that is very much like Shark Tank. You have 3 or 4 people that can decide whether you're yay or nay. You literally have like 10 minutes, 5 to come in with your speech, with your presentation, and then answer facts, figures, talk about finances, talk about production, talk about capability, talk about cassava, talk about manufacturing. And so I go to a lot of Shark Tanks, but I would love to. If anybody knows anyone in that world to hook me up, I would love it.
I just want to throw in a question. When I was trying to get the information from you, you couldn't give it to me, for your program because said you were busy doing a
I
presentation.
literally I was doing that for a big retailer. I was very nervous, but it went very, very well. It was my first time in front of a really big retailer. And it was great practice, but yeah, it took me a lot of time. We got there. It was fun. Everyone loved it. And yeah, we're making progress. So that I wasn't a Shark Tank a couple weeks ago.
But I see, I know nothing about that. So I guess it's really intense to have to prepare for a presentation, right?
Yes.
It's like
Yeah,
doing your
it is.
thesis or
It's
something.
everything or nothing.
And
Exactly. And it's everything. You have to have your setup and you have to have, a very specific deck, but there's always requirements. Like you have to give me a full overview of your business and your capabilities, and you have to talk about your product, and you have to talk about your packaging, and you have to talk about distribution, but you could only do it in 2 slides. And then you have to do X, Y, and Z in your product. So there's a lot going into it, and we are still very teeny tiny. I do a lot of the work myself. So everything takes time.
intense. And I had another question. When I've eaten at Fogo de Chao, how do you pronounce that?
Ciao.
Chao.
There you go. Good job.
Chao. Chao. Well, I've eaten there twice and I loved all the meat and I thought something's wrong here. We can't eat like this. And piles and piles and piles of meat. I think you might have explained it. It's like a celebratory thing. How are you supposed to eat or pace yourself in a restaurant like Fogo de Chao where they keep bringing meat and meat and meat, different kinds of meat? How do you handle that properly?
So the way that it's done, and this is one of the things that culturally I had to learn when I moved to the US, that the US does that used to annoy me, but now I'm totally fine with it because capitalism. But when in Brazil, both the churrasco event and the churrasco, like the fogo de chão, when you go to a restaurant in Brazil, especially when you're going with friends for a celebration or what have you, you can spend anywhere between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours in a restaurant. I've been in a restaurant for an entire day with just friends, and they will not kick you out. So it's the same thing when you go to churrascaria. Here in the US, you come, you sit down, you make your little plate with your salad, you eat your little meat, you try to eat as much as you can, and you leave. And in Brazil, you'll get there, you'll have some salad, you'll have some meat, you'll have a little dessert, which in Brazil, it's usually like a grilled pineapple, which is delicious. And then you'll have a little coffee and a little beer, and then you'll chit chat, wait a little bit. Oh, let's go and eat some more. So that's why we can kind of pace ourselves, and similar to like a barbecue that you have at home, it's many, many hours. So it's a lot of picking, snacking.
And that now you've explained it. So anyway, go to Fogo de Chao with delicious caution. And also, I'm wondering if you would ever consider giving lessons, teaching people how to speak with a perfect American diction. So
I might have to tell them to be born again, but I can try.
no,
Try.
you speak American flawlessly.
I'm married to an American. I speak it every day, all day. But also learning it from, as a second language. I think we have time for like one more question or 2 more questions because my dog is like at the door.
Well,
It's
the
been long
questions
enough.
are over, but I have a question. And
Yes,
that
ma'am.
is there a restaurant in Chicago area where you could eat in the Brazilian experience? Like they're not going to be looking at you like, when are you going to leave?
I don't think that, and
That's what
that's
I thought. But by the way,
no,
you would be excellent dinner company. You are so enthusiastic about food, so detailed. You're just wonderful. That's just
thank you.
I thought it was really cool.
If
I
only
really
we could have,
appreciate it.
if only we could have served samples like we used to when we had live meetings. This
Oh,
has been
okay.
a stellar
That's,
event. Uh,
Maybe we'll try to organize an event, a Brazilian
that
event.
would be fun. That would be fun.
oh, you're
That would be
talking to the
fun.
right person
Yeah, I'm
with
also gonna
Kathy.
send you- I'm just going to send you something as well. There is a big Brazilian festival, that Festa Junina that I mentioned to you, where we eat the canjica, the corn, similar to the rice pudding. It's in June
Right.
in Naperville. It's huge. It's organized by Brazilians. I'm going to have my stand there. You'll find a lot of the foods that we talked about today, so I'll send that information over.
That would be fantastic.
And then there's another event in September, also a Brazilian event in downtown Chicago. I'll send you both of that. I'm part of the Brazilian businesses here in Chicago, so I'll send that your way.
I'm not surprised that you're part of that.
It's a great time. We support each other. Little businesses
to.
support little businesses.
And thank
You
you
have to.
for some delicious food for thought. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all. I appreciate everyone's time and for listening in. Thank you so, so much. I had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.